What kind of janitor mops floors at 2 in the morning with jazz music playing in his earbuds? That thought hit Gregory Parks harder than the cold night air outside Store 17. Gregory built the company from scratch 15 years ago, starting with a single sandwich shop in a strip mall. Now he had 19 locations across 3 states. But success came with distance. He hadn't been inside some of his own stores in years. Lately, customer reviews had dipped in certain locations, especially this one. Complaints about cold food, rude service, and dirty dining areas piled up for Store 17. Gregory didn't want another filtered report from a district manager. He wanted the truth. So he shaved his thick brown beard, dyed his hair gray, and threw on a padded belly. With fake glasses, a limp, and a new name James, he walked into his own business as a night shift trainee on cleaning crew. Most staff didn't recognize him. It made sense. He'd never met them. Store 17 was in a different state and turnover was high. Only the manager, Dylan, had been there for years, and even he was new enough to have never seen Gregory in person. Corporate rarely visited. That was on Gregory. The night shift was thin. 2 kitchen closers, 1 supervisor, and a janitor named Elias. Elias was in his early 50s, quiet, moved with a slight hunch, and worked fast but careful. He didn't say much when Gregory was introduced as the new guy. "You mop, sweep, do what he does," Dylan told Gregory, nodding toward Elias. "Just don't annoy him." "He's been here longer than I have." That night, Gregory kept his head down and followed Elias's lead. Elias didn't talk much, but he noticed everything: fingerprints on glass, a forgotten napkin under a booth, even a ketchup smudge under a table leg. Gregory had never seen someone clean with that kind of precision. By midnight, everyone except Elias and Gregory had clocked out. Elias didn't seem to mind the silence. He just kept working, one tile at a time. At one point, Gregory asked, "You always stay this late?" Elias shrugged. "Sometimes." "You don't get overtime?" "Nope." Gregory paused. "Why do it then?" Elias looked up, tired eyes behind wire-frame glasses. "Because someone's gotta leave this place better than they found it." It stuck with Gregory. He wasn't sure why. Around 1:30 in the morning, Elias took a break. He didn't sit. He just leaned against the wall near the back hallway and pulled out a worn photo from his wallet. Gregory didn't want to pry, but curiosity won. "Your family?" he asked. Elias nodded. "My son, Owen." Gregory waited. "He's 10. Has cerebral palsy. I take care of him during the day. That's why I work nights." Gregory blinked. "You're his full-time caregiver?" "Yeah. My wife passed 3 years ago." Elias tucked the photo back in his wallet. "I sleep from 8 to midnight. Work here till 3. Go home. Get him ready for school. Then I rest when I can. If he's having a bad day, I skip sleep." Gregory didn't know what to say. He just stood there, mop in hand, feeling small. At 2 a.m., Elias turned up the jazz in one earbud and started polishing the back hallway floors. Gregory followed, mop dragging behind him. That's when Dylan walked in unexpectedly. "James, you can clock out," Dylan said, tone sharp. "We don't pay trainees for standing around." Don't argue," Dylan snapped. "You're here to learn, not to chit-chat." Elias froze, eyes narrowing. "Dylan, he's helping." Dylan scoffed. "You don't speak for the company." Gregory's jaw tightened. "You do realize he's been running the store by himself for the last 2 hours? Dylan rolled his eyes. "He's a janitor. Not a hero." Elias just turned back to the floor, jaw clenched tight. Gregory watched him quietly start scrubbing again, like he'd heard worse and knew better than to fight. Gregory's blood boiled. But not yet. He needed to see more. He stayed until Elias clocked out at 3. They walked out together. "You ever think about asking for a raise?" Gregory asked. Elias laughed once, soft and tired. "Already did. 3 times. Dylan said night shift doesn't bring in money, so no." Gregory nodded slowly. "You ever think about leaving?" "I can't. I need the health insurance." They stood outside under the flickering parking lot lights. Elias gave a polite nod and walked off toward an old van parked at the edge of the lot. Gregory stood in the cold, watching the taillights disappear into the night. Something had to change. And it would. The next evening, Gregory arrived early 5:30. The dining area was half full, a few families finishing their meals, a couple of teens loitering near the soda fountain. The air smelled of stale fryer oil and overworked air conditioning. He wore the same disguise, padded waist, limp, gray hair. He kept the same name. James? Tonight he'd be shadowing the front counter, according to the shift board. That meant working under a different supervisor, a wiry woman in her late 20s named Kayla. She barely looked up when he introduced himself. "Don't slow us down," she said, handing him a headset and directing him to the register. "You watch, you don't speak unless I tell you to." Gregory nodded and stood quietly beside the register as Kayla took orders. Her movements were fast, but her tone clipped. She never said please, rarely made eye contact, and rushed people whether they were ready or not. When a mother struggled with her toddler while trying to order, Kayla let out an audible sigh and said, "I don't have all night, ma'am." The mother blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said I don't have all night." Gregory watched the woman gather her child and leave without ordering. No one said a word. The teen at the fryer station behind them just kept scooping fries. 10 minutes later, a man in a wheelchair rolled in. The front mats were bunched up near the door. No one moved to fix them. The man struggled to get over the bend. Gregory stepped over and flattened them quietly. "You don't touch that," Kayla barked. "That's a liability. You hurt yourself, it's on us." "He couldn't get in," Gregory said. Kayla rolled her eyes. "Then he can go around the building to the side door. That one's wider." Gregory turned to the man. "You okay?" The man gave a grateful nod and wheeled in slowly past them. By 7, the line had grown. Gregory offered to take orders. Kayla refused. "You'll mess it up. Just watch." But she was falling behind. 2 orders were wrong. One customer came back to the counter holding a tray. "There's bacon on this." "I said no bacon." "I'm Muslim." Kayla didn't flinch. "Then take it off." Gregory's hand curled into a fist under the counter. The customer's face fell. He placed the tray down and walked out in silence. "Why would you say that?" Gregory asked. Kayla looked at him. "Because we're not a 5-star restaurant. You work here long enough, you'll stop caring too." He didn't reply. Instead, he glanced toward the back. The kitchen was chaotic. 2 teens, maybe 16 or 17, were trying to keep up. One of them, a boy with thick glasses and greasy hair, was sweating so hard his shirt stuck to him. The other had a bandage around her wrist and kept shaking her arm out as she flipped patties. They were alone. No shift lead, no kitchen manager. Just the 2 of them. Gregory stepped into the back when Kayla turned her attention to the register. He leaned toward the girl. "You okay?" She nodded quickly, but her eyes were red. "Just a sprain. I told Dylan. He said wrap it and keep going." "Did he let you take time off?" "No. Said if I called out again, I'd lose my next week's hours." Gregory stared at the sizzling grill. "How long have you been working tonight?" "Since 3. We close at 11. He looked over at the boy. "Same shift." The boy nodded without turning. Gregory returned to the front, heart sinking. He worked the floor until closing. Kayla disappeared around 9. "Just left. No goodbye. No instructions. No clock out." The teens in the kitchen didn't seem surprised. One of them muttered, "She always does that." By the time the last customer left, the place was a mess. Tables unbussed. Trash bins overflowing. Floors sticky. No closers showed up. The teens began cleaning without comment. Elias arrived at 11 sharp, same as the night before, and immediately went to work. Gregory grabbed a rag and joined him. "You don't have to," Elias said. "I want to." Elias didn't argue. They worked side by side for over an hour. Near midnight, the girl with the bandaged wrist dropped a pan. It clattered to the tile and she let out a sharp cry. Her hand had gone numb. Gregory rushed over. "You need to stop." She bit her lip. "I can't. I need the hours. My dad just got laid off." Gregory turned to Elias. "She can't keep going." Elias didn't hesitate. Sit down. I'll finish your side. The girl sat on an overturned crate, hand cradled in her lap. Gregory cleaned in silence for a while, then asked Elias, how long's it been like this? Elias dipped his mop. Since last summer. Dylan cut the closing crew to save payroll. Said corporate was pushing tighter margins. Did anyone report it? We tried. But it all filters through Dylan. He makes the reports look fine. Gregory didn't answer. He just kept scrubbing. At 2:30, the boy finished hauling trash and stepped outside for air. Gregory joined him. The kid leaned against the wall, breathing hard. You shouldn't be doing this alone. I don't mind working hard, the boy said. But we're invisible here. No one listens. You ever talk to anyone higher up? He gave a bitter laugh. Who? Dylan screens everything. He told us if we go over his head, we're done. Gregory nodded once. What's your name? Marcus. You've got a good work ethic, Marcus. I don't know if it matters anymore. Gregory looked out across the empty lot. It does. The next day, Gregory didn't show up in disguise. He wore a dark suit and walked through the front doors at noon, unannounced. Dylan was behind the counter, leaning against the drink station, phone in hand. At the sight of Gregory's face clean-shaven, no belly, no limp, he frowned. Can I help you? Gregory didn't answer. He stepped forward and said calmly, gather your staff. Now. Dylan hesitated. I don't understand, I'm Gregory Parks. Founder. Owner. The color drained from Dylan's face. Now. Within 5 minutes, the kitchen staff, Marcus, the girl with the bandage, her name was Kara, and even Elias had assembled in the dining area. Kayla was absent. Gregory asked where she was. Scheduled off, Marcus said. Gregory pulled out his phone and dialed. The call went to voicemail. He turned to Dylan. You'll inform her she's no longer employed. Effective immediately. Dylan's eyes widened. You can't just, I can. And I did. He looked around at the staff. I came here undercover because I stopped trusting the reports coming from the store. What I saw shocked me. And it should never have happened. No one spoke. Employees forced to work injured. Customers mistreated. Cleanliness standards ignored. Overnight shifts run with no support. None of it is acceptable. None of it is what I built this company to be. He turned to Elias. You're being promoted to night operations supervisor. Effective tonight. You'll oversee proper closing procedures and train new staff. Elias blinked. Sir, you've earned it. And we'll adjust your schedule so you can take mornings off. Benefits will improve too. He turned to Marcus and Kara. You're both being placed on a performance development track. That means pay increases over the next 3 months and full training support. You're doing more than you should have to. That changes now. Then he faced Dylan. You're relieved of all managerial duties. I'll be conducting an audit of every report you've submitted over the past year. If I find falsified data or unreported violations, you'll be facing legal consequences. Dylan's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Gregory took a breath. From now on, this store will have proper staffing. Injuries will be reported directly to HR. I'll be setting up weekly video calls with each location, and every employee will have access to a direct line that bypasses all management layers. He looked at each person in the room. I built this company because I believed in doing things right. I forgot how easy it is to lose sight of that. No more. When he finished, no one clapped. No one said a word. But the silence felt different now. Not fear. Just wait. Real wait. Gregory nodded once and walked out. He didn't look back. Gregory returned to the store 3 days later, this time without a disguise, without a speech, and without an entourage. No press. No fanfare. Just a clipboard and quiet focus. The dining area was still in recovery. Tables were cleaner, signage was updated, and 2 new hires were shadowing Kara in the kitchen. She was moving slower, her wrists still wrapped, but she was giving instructions with more confidence now. Gregory stayed out of her way. He wasn't there to hover. He was there to watch. Elias had taken to his new role without fanfare. He didn't use the title as leverage, just picked up extra responsibilities like they were always his. Gregory noticed the way younger employees leaned toward him when talking, not out of fear, but comfort. He had become a quiet axis of stability in a place that had known mostly chaos. Mid-shift, Gregory pulled Kara aside near the back hallway. "I saw your prep logs this morning," he said. "Everything's marked and labeled, even the fryer oil rotations." She nodded, wiping her hands on a towel. "I didn't want the new kids to get blamed for anything." "You're still splitting shifts between here and school?" "Yeah, but I dropped one class to make space. Just until things level out." He studied her for a moment. "I know we didn't give you a good system to step into." "I'm not blaming anyone," she said. "But it helps having someone in charge now who doesn't disappear mid-shift." She didn't smile when she said it. Just a straight statement of fact. Gregory nodded. "We're working on hiring a full-time kitchen lead. Someone with real experience." Kara raised an eyebrow. "You'll find someone willing to move here? We'll offer relocation, and we'll ask the current team to be part of the final interview." Her eyes flicked up. "You're letting us help pick the manager? They'll be leading your line. You should have a say." It was a small moment, but it shifted something. For the first time since he'd walked into that store, she looked like she believed him. By late afternoon, Gregory moved to the back office. The room was cramped, the desk cluttered with old receipts and unopened mail. He sat down and opened Dylan's old reports. There were inconsistencies everywhere. Inventory numbers didn't match recorded sales. Staffing logs were padded. Health inspection compliance checklists had been copied word for word across multiple months. He made a list. By the time Elias clocked in, Gregory was still there. "You still digging through the wreckage?" Elias asked, stepping in with his signature quiet step. Gregory looked up, trying to understand how deep it went. Elias leaned against the doorframe. "You'll be here a while then." Gregory closed the ledger. "You ever think about taking a manager role?" Elias shook his head. "I don't want to push paper. I want to keep the floors clean and the kids safe." "That's enough. You'd be good at it. Being good at something doesn't mean you should do it." Gregory nodded slowly. "Fair." Elias hesitated, then crossed to the chair opposite. "Mind if I ask something?" "Go ahead. Are you going to do this at the other stores?" Gregory glanced at the clock. "Yes." Quietly. "One at a time." Elias tapped the desk with a knuckle. "Then don't just check the numbers. Sit behind the fryer. Watch the closers. Talk to the ones who don't speak much." "I plan to. Because if you only fix this one store," Elias said, "then it's just a good story. Not a better company." Gregory held his gaze. "You're right." He stayed until nearly 9 that night, watching the dinner rush. The new hires stumbled a bit, but no one raised their voice. Kara corrected them gently, and Marcus picked up the slack without needing to be asked. At the end of the shift, Gregory stepped outside to call HR. "Start the process on Dylan," he said. "We'll need a formal review of every store he oversaw before this one." He paused. "And hire a third-party auditor. I don't want this investigation managed internally." The next morning, the regional hiring team arrived. Gregory didn't attend the interviews, but he did meet with the candidates afterward. By the third one, he found someone promising, a former operations lead from a competing chain who had left after a dispute over ethics. Her name was Trina, and she asked more questions than anyone else. When he told her about the staff's involvement in the hiring decision, she didn't flinch. She leaned in. "Good," Trina said. "If they don't trust me, it won't matter what I know." Gregory offered her the position on the condition she spend her first 2 weeks on the floor, not in the office. She agreed without hesitation. By the time she started, the energy in the store had shifted again. Not perfect, not polished, but steadier. Marcus had started training on prep, and Kara had taken over the fryer station permanently. Elias had reorganized the entire closing checklist and taught it to the new closers himself. One night, Gregory came in unannounced and found them running the floor without a single hiccup. He waited until close and asked Elias to walk with him out back. They stood by the dumpster, the evening air thick and quiet. "You ever think about leaving?" Gregory asked. Elias looked at him sideways. "You offering something?" Gregory smiled faintly. "Not yet, but I don't want to lose you." You still planning to visit the other locations? I leave next week. Elias nodded. Then don't forget this one. I won't. They stood in silence for a moment. Elias finally said, "You know what I think the real problem was?" "What?" "You built something good, but you trusted people to protect it just because they had titles. You can't do that. Not anymore." Gregory didn't argue. He didn't need to. Instead, he said, "I'm giving every store a direct reporting line to me. No filter. I'll rotate through each one quarterly. And I'm setting up an employee council peer-elected. They'll meet with me every month." Elias looked out at the parking lot. "Then maybe you won't need to go undercover again." "Maybe," Gregory said. "But I might anyway. Just to make sure I don't forget." Elias nodded once, then headed back inside. Gregory stayed a little longer, listening to the hum of the refrigerators, the low buzz of the streetlight, the faint sound of a mop bucket rolling across tile. He didn't need to see the floor to know exactly who it was. Gregory returned to store 17 3 months after his undercover shift. This time, not to observe, not to audit, but to verify change. He arrived without calling ahead, walked in just after the lunch rush, and stood near the soda fountain for a moment, watching. The layout hadn't changed, but the atmosphere had. Orders were being called out efficiently. A teenage cashier politely guided a customer through the menu. The kitchen worked in quiet rhythm. No one was shouting. No one looked overrun. Trina, the new kitchen manager, was by the prep station in a charcoal apron, checking temperature logs with a clipboard in hand. She didn't see Gregory until she turned to refill the sanitizer bucket and caught his eye. "You're earlier than we expected," she said. "I figured surprises tell a more honest story." She gave a short nod and gestured toward the back. "We've got a seat in the office. Staff's on break rotation now." Inside the office, he sat across from her. The desk was tidier. The ancient receipts were gone. A laminated weekly shift chart was pinned to the corkboard. Gregory glanced at it. "You kept the split shift model," he said. Trina nodded. "It's what worked best. We stagger the prep and closers, keep people under 9 hours unless they volunteer extra. 2 weeks notice for all changes, no exceptions." "Anyone push back?" "A few. Not staff, though. Regional tried to question the labor costs. I showed them the retention numbers. Turnover, down by 60% since your visit. Kara and Marcus are mentoring now. We haven't lost a single closer in 6 weeks. Gregory leaned back slightly. "That's the longest stretch in this store's history." Trina didn't say anything. She didn't need to. He stood, walked back into the kitchen. Kara was leading 2 younger employees through the new fryer rotation. Her wrist was unwrapped now, but she still moved with care. She looked up when she saw him. "Glad you dropped in," she said. "We just finished the new allergen labeling." Gregory raised an eyebrow. "You were part of that?" "I pushed for it. We had a kid last week with a sesame allergy. His dad said this was the only place that asked before he had to." Marcus was at the grill, flipping patties with one hand, calling orders with the other. He glanced back and nodded when he saw Gregory, then returned to the line. "You two seem to have taken full ownership," Gregory said. "We didn't do it alone," Kara replied. "But we weren't waiting around either." He turned to one of the new hires, a soft-spoken girl who looked no older than 17. She was rinsing lettuce in the prep sink. "You feel like you're part of the team?" he asked. She looked up briefly, hesitating. "They trained me, like really trained me, not just watch and copy." Kara stepped in. "We added a checklist to the onboarding. Covers everything from uniform policy to emergency allergies." Gregory nodded. "You building that into the other stores?" "Trina's already sent it to your compliance lead." He walked the dining area slowly. Tables were wiped down between customers. The floor was clean. Staff moved confidently but without panic. Elias was in his usual place near the back, wiping the baseboards with a small brush he kept in his apron pocket. Gregory approached him. "You still doing detail work by hand?" Elias didn't look up. Corners don't clean themselves. Gregory crouched beside him. You ever think about slowing down? Elias pulled the brush away and sat back on his heels. I think about what happens if I do. Gregory watched him for a moment. We're offering you a salary position. Night operations lead across all regional stores. You'd train new hires, audit overnight procedures, advise on equipment upgrades. Elias didn't answer right away. You'd be based here, Gregory added. Still have your same hours. We'd just stop pretending you're not already doing the job. Elias set the brush down. What about Owen? Full dependent coverage. And we'll connect you with a support coordinator for local resources. Elias looked away briefly. Then he nodded once. All right. Gregory stood, brushing off his slacks. You'll have an assistant. No more scrubbing corners unless you want to. Elias picked up his brush again. I want to, but it helps to know I don't have to. Later that day, Gregory met with the regional training team. He walked them through the changes made at Store 17, what had worked, what hadn't, and what policies needed to be replicated company-wide. One of the directors raised a concern. What's our liability if we start empowering entry-level staff to make decisions on the floor? Gregory didn't blink. Our liability is higher if we don't. He paused. From now on, every store has a direct line to my office. No middlemen. I want monthly feedback from staff, not just managers. If I hear anyone gets pushed out for speaking up, that manager's done. No warnings. There were no objections. 2 weeks later, Gregory returned one final time to Store 17. He came in just before closing. The dining room was quiet. The kitchen was winding down. Trina was reviewing the closing logs with Kara. Gregory stepped back and watched without interrupting. Elias was by the mop sink rinsing out a bucket. He looked up when he saw Gregory and raised an eyebrow. You checking twice? Making sure it wasn't luck. Elias chuckled once. It wasn't. Gregory walked to the front counter. The new cashier, the girl with the lettuce from before, was counting the drawer. She looked up nervously. Everything all right? She asked. He smiled. More than all right. She looked relieved and went back to her count. Gregory stepped outside and stood under the same flickering light where he'd watched Elias drive off those months ago. The bulb had been replaced. The pavement had been repainted. Even the trash enclosure was cleaner. He took out his phone and reviewed the week's internal notes. 2 more stores had submitted complaints through the new reporting line. One had already seen its manager removed for timecard manipulation. Change wasn't just happening. It was spreading. He looked up at the storefront. The same logo. The same name. But inside, it wasn't the same place. Not anymore.